For as long as people have raised pigeons, they've looked for ways to find shortcuts to seeing a pigeon's quality as a racer or breeder. Many of these theories are highly controversial, in large part because some people swear by them and others think they're silly. Take iSign. Just to know where our men here are on iSign, I asked what they thought of this theory of selecting pigeons based on what you see in their eyes.
No, for me the eye said nothing. Nothing.
My idea on iSign is that the first time you hear somebody quote that well-known iSign expert has won the national yet again, then I will believe in iSign. And that's the thing you'll never hear.
My opinion on iSign. This word here is a basic of pigeon sport in Holland and Belgium. We don't even have a Dutch word for it. So it's BS.
Well, the Germans, most of them, or maybe I don't know, but a lot of Germans look for the eye. I don't know why. They look with a glass. Apparently they see special things in it. We don't see that, but okay. When they see that, it's good for us.
I don't really look to the pigeon's eye. I like a good eye in a pigeon. I like a good rich vitality in an eye, but really I've had pigeons went together paired by accident. Two yellow eyes, the same. You'd have thought, going by the iSign theory and stuff, that they never bred anything. I had a pair of pigeons went together on the bred Champion Yaboa, Paul Boy, and Record Breaker. 3-4 stroke winners, over 20,000 boards. On their eyes, there was no more iSign on it, nor whatever. Just paired together by accident. So that surely everybody likes to look at a good eye, but I never put an eyeglass in my hand. That's definite. Never would go with the eye like.
If you talk to scientists who are involved in pigeons at the university, everybody will laugh at it. There are pigeons on the tower here that don't make it home from 10 kilometers. They have the most beautiful iSign.
Okay, well, I guess that's a theory we won't spend more time on. But coming up is another theory that many of these champions will tell you is a fact. And before I have them let you in on this secret, I want to set the scene. When I made the film Oldest Feathered Friend several years ago, I visited a young biologist named Ken Dial. Professor Dial is a Harvard-trained scientist who was attracted to the University of Montana in Missoula by the chance to establish a flight laboratory to study how birds fly. Since then, he's risen to become one of the world's foremost experts on bird flight, and his findings have been published in scientific journals as well as newspapers and magazines throughout the world. I visited Dr. Dial at his lab and explained to him the concept you are going to see in a minute. Here's what it's based on. This is a picture of the back of a pigeon's throat. This is also a picture of a racing pigeon's throat. In the upcoming episode called The Motor, you will learn why the champions in this film would never race or breed from this bird, and why this bird would be chosen as a potential racer or breeder. What this theory has to do with is that part of the pigeon's anatomy where vital oxygen enters and exits the body. They believe it's an indicator of a bird's total respiratory potential, and that severe stress can leave telltale marks that indicate to an observant trainer that the bird's vitality has been lost. Here's what an eminent scientist has to say about racing pigeons as flying specimens, and possibly why this theory, discovered by exceptionally observant racing pigeon fanciers, could actually be fact. Dr. Ken Dial.
Birds are special. They are spectacular aerobic specimens, perhaps the finest aerobic animals on Earth. They can fly at extraordinary speeds over long periods of time without rest, and they don't go into oxygen debt. You and I, if we run as hard as we can, we finally have to stop, breathe heavily, because we're trying to catch up with all the oxygen that our muscles are demanding. Birds do not go into oxygen debt. They maintain an aerobic scope for hours. And this means they have a unique respiratory system to begin with. Birds in general couple their breathing with their wing beat frequency, but very few of them couple it 1-to-1. For every wing beat, would there be a breath? For reasons we don't understand, most of the columbids, which are the pigeon and dove group, do couple them one-to-one. So if a bird is flapping its wings at 8 to 12 times a second, it's breathing that quickly. And that's a spectacular turnover for anything with a high metabolic rate. And pigeons, let's be understood right here, pigeons are spectacular flyers. Most birds have a respiratory frequency that is coupled 3 to 4, 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 their wing beats. So for 4 wing beats, they do 1 breath, or 3 wing beats, they do 1 breath. If you're thinking of a bird, even with a slow wing beat, like 3 or 4 hertz, 3 or 4 times a second, that's you and me going, that's slow. But what's unusual is that pigeons and their relatives, which include mourning doves, band-tailed pigeons, ground doves, they have a unique one-to-one relationship with their wing beat. And that's unusual. We don't really understand that. The bottom line here is these pigeons are unique. These racing pigeons are truly spectacular Olympic athletes. The distances they travel, the speeds at which they travel, and to be able to do this day after day tells us that they really are a uniquely beautiful avian specimen. The wing is pounding away at this extraordinary frequency, pushing against the fluid of the air at 8 to 12 times per second. That's a tremendous amount of external work. And in order to maintain that for any length of time, you've got to supply enough oxygen and fuel to those flight muscles for that to be accomplished. So there's no question that people who are interfacing with these racing pigeons and looking at them in ways that most of us don't, there's a world to learn from them. I think they'd enjoy what we do in that we study animals in a contained environment like a wind tunnel, and we're able to look at how they breathe and how the muscles work and different wing designs and how that affects their performance. But at the end of the day, the only important thing is what a bird does outside, not certainly in a captive lab or a wind tunnel. And I applaud all of those individuals that are looking beyond the race and looking to the anatomy, the physiology, and the performance of their little friends. There may be a lot of work yet to be done just on where the air enters the respiratory system, at the glottis, whether there are partitions there, and these partitions may in fact stimulate what's called dynamic valving. This dynamic valving is a way to accelerate air faster than it could have and deviate it to left or right chambers depending on what's required, and not by shutting and closing but actually staying open. That's why they're called dynamic valves. And you could have a septum or a little sheet moving ever so slightly left and right to accomplish this. But we probably know 5% of what needs to be known about how birds breathe. If these birds aren't perfectly tuned like your car or an aircraft during their locomotor event, be it on the freeway or in the air, you absolutely are going to have serious problems down the road of inefficiency. So there's no question these animals are able to tune their respiratory and their circulatory systems to allow their locomotion to be as efficient as possible. How they do that is in many ways still a mystery, but that they do it is not.